Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Scott Morris. I am the Director of Business Development for Gaming for GTS, which is the really long and fancy way of saying I'm the board game guy. We are here with another one of our publisher to retailer webinars, and I'm really excited. Not only do we have a really good partner and a partner coming back into GTS, but a really good friend. I have Ben Harkins, who is the owner, etc., of everything in Floodgate Games. We're going to be talking about a lot of really cool games that a lot of you probably maybe already have in your store already. In fact, one of, in my opinion, is like a staple game. What I mean by staple is if you're opening a store or you have a store that sells board games, you're probably making a mistake if you don't carry this game. And we're going to be talking about that one. Hint, it's called Sagrada, which is what you probably know. I don't want to steal too much thunder, but I just want to remind everybody, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, feel free, be exceptionally awesome. You can give us a like, you can even give us a subscribe, and you can turn on notifications so you can get told when more videos like this are going to be available for you to check out. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to pop them down in the YouTube channel. We'll be happy to get back to you with any kind of updates or any kind of answers. Ben and I are going to make this very discussive, so we'll hopefully work in a lot of answers to questions you may already be thinking or have wanted to ask. But I don't want to steal too much thunder. So Ben, my face was made for radio. I'm going to let it be quiet. And you, my friend, I'm going to let take over the show.
Sounds great. Scott, super excited to be back with GTS, and thanks for this opportunity. Really excited to talk with you all today. Like Scott mentioned, we've got a lot of cool stuff going on. And I have a little slideshow that I promise I'll talk through so you don't have to read anything if you don't want to.
It's a short presentation of 176 slides.
Yeah, I've only got 176 slides. Just kidding. All right. Well, let me flip over so we can share some screen.
And it's good to know, retailers, as we're going through this presentation, the things that you see here are available for ordering inside of the GTS system right now. So if you see anything you love, definitely you can place orders online, or you can contact your sales rep and they can help you out as well. So
super. So hello, GTS retailers. I am Ben from Floodgate Games. We love creating everlasting experiences through gaming, and I hope that shows through our games. We're best known, as Scott was mentioning, for a game called Sagrada. It's a game of dice drafting and window crafting. There are a bunch of expansions for this one. There's a 5 and 6 player expansion, so you can play with your whole team, and then a bunch of modular expansions that scratch various itches and give you new dice, of course. And those have all been out for about a while. This one sells great for us, particularly around the holidays. It's a super giftable game, really pretty dice game. So if you haven't checked it out, please do.
You're being very kind on that. I would go a step further than that. This is, in my opinion, a true evergreen game. When you look at evergreens in the market, and I know in these days and age, people tend to kind of throw that term around a little faster than most people would like. But Sagrada's been out for, is it 5 years or 6 years now?
Yeah, I think the release was 2017. So okay. Yeah, yep. Coming up on 5 years.
Coming up on 5 years. This game still is something that I see constantly in stores everywhere I go. Constantly, everybody I meet in the hobby that I talk about games, like when we talk about dice games, like Sagrada is one that comes up. I've never had anyone say, "What's that?" Like it's like it's not some lost in the ether kind of thing. Like this is a game that is predominant, and apart from it being an amazing game and really, really fun, just on the base game its own, not even counting like the 5 and 6 player expansion and Passion and Life and things like that. This is a gorgeous game to merchandise on your shelf. If you're a retailer that has the ability to face a lot of games out, this is a beautiful one to face out. But as you can see there from that 3D image, it is a great game to show from the side as well. It's like super colorful. It pops. It immediately gains attention. And as we all know, that's half the challenge, right? Just getting someone to pick the box up. So just really, really good presentation overall.
Thanks. Yeah. And our quick pitch for this one is we just call it stained glass Sudoku, and that's so relatable for people. So in one line, you can kind of know what you're getting into, and you get to roll a bunch of dice that look really pretty on the table. So.
I love that. That's an easy way to describe it, both for us and for the retailer. So that's great.
Try to keep it easy for you. Next up, I want to mention a game we put out in 2020 called Holy Festival of Colors. This one kind of flew under the radar, as did a lot of releases over the last year and a half or so. This is a 3D area control game of spreading color and joy. It's named after a festival that happens every year, where celebrants at the festival are running around singing, dancing, celebrating, and most notably throwing colored powder on each other. And that's what we're doing in this game too. Probably the most standout thing about this is a little three-dimensional tower that you're playing on. And it's not just a gimmick. That third spatial aspect matters a lot. And we've particularly seen great traction as we're getting back into conventions. Putting this one on the table just sucks people right in. The gameplay is super straightforward. Play a card, lay your tokens, and so on. But the strategy is more emergent. And there's really great replayability too. It's like a super simple system to understand. And then we have these variable scoring cards and such that twist each game a little bit differently. So
I have two funny stories about this game.
Go for it.
The first story is right prior to you announcing this game, I was talking with someone on a podcast and they were like, what themes do you think are underrepresented in board games? Or what themes do you wish had board games made of them? And the first thing that came to my mind was I said, I think the Holy Festival would be amazing. I think it's this really happy, beautiful, colorful time. And there's like literally colors everywhere. I said, it just screams that you could make a board game out of it. And then literally the very next day, as I'm emailing that podcast person saying, hey, when are you going to have this up? And when are you going to have it? Like, I see this email come through from announcement from Floodgate Games. And I was like, are you kidding? Like, do you have like access to my Siri or what's going on here? Right. It's like,
you manifested our game.
Awesome. The second funny story, my daughter recently moved into her own place and she asked if she could take some games from my library. And apparently this one got taken and I didn't know about it. So I'm going to have to do like a hostage swap or something to get it back. But she absolutely loved this game. So yeah. And you're right. The 3D aspect of it is really, really cool because this is a game that is also really good for like a display game or a demo game. Cause it's one of those things that you see it and you're like, I want to touch it. I want to know what's going on. What's happening here? Why is there this giant tower? Like there's just so many different things that are going on with it. So it's just, again, from a merchandising perspective, from a, in-store perspective, just really, really good things to put in front of the customer.
Very cool. It's super durable too. Like I keep mine up all the time. And
I was really pleasantly surprised with that, actually. I know when we first started putting ours together in the tower and everything, after my idiot brain looked at it and went, wait, no, that's not. Oh, this is how you do it, right? Like plugged it all together. Like the first thing I was like, I wonder if this is going to do really well. And like a couple of times people drop their meeples, little pieces that you see there, onto the top level. And it kind of jostled some things around, but it didn't mess the board up and didn't mess the tower up. So yeah, it was really well designed.
Thank you. Yeah, we worked with Game Trays on designing the board and the courtyard board, and I think they just nailed it.
They do a good job. Knows a good dude.
Very cool. Next up, I want to mention Fog of Love, which if you've been following along with what we've been doing as Floodgate, that might be confusing because this previously wasn't a Floodgate game. And as of last year, it now is. So this is a game I've been fascinated with since its Kickstarter project. This is a romantic comedy as a board game. And you're playing, each of the players is controlling a character that's in a relationship. And you're playing through scenes and navigating that relationship, influencing the balance of your various personality dimensions, ultimately to choose a destiny for whether you're going to stay together or break up. It creates amazing moments of how you're exploring what these characters do with each other and how they navigate around these scenarios. And it's a really great like date night game. So you can kind of play like romantically as a couple, but it can be played like a little more like The Sims, where it's a little like, hey, we're going to watch this from the outside in and kind of put this couple through a terrible situation or whatever the case. So you don't have to play it from a role-playing perspective, but you definitely can if that's your thing, which that flexibility is really great to have built on this like proper board game underneath it, where you are trying to like manage the balance of these personality dimension points as you go.
That one could say you fell in love with the game, right?
Ah, perfect.
Ching. No, yeah. I remember the very first time I played this game, I was immediately scared to death to play it with my wife because I was like, this is going to spark a lot of conversation, right? Like, and maybe conversations I don't know if I want to have or not, right? But
Yeah.
I've played with my wife, I played with friends, and you hit the nail on the head with the Sims thing. I think that's a great analysis of it. It's a game that you can play and enjoy as a couple. It's a game you can play and enjoy as friends, as this experience type thing. To me, the most fun part about this game is actually the reason that I love board games so much is it stimulates conversation amongst everybody at the table and gets you to share things about yourself that you may normally not even talk about over a normal game night. And that's cool because you get to learn about your fellow gamers and people like that and everything. So I actually have a friend who has a copy of this, and he says that he always wants to use this as like his icebreaker. Whenever somebody says, "Oh, I play board games," he's like, let's have them over and play Fog of Love and see
I
if they
love it.
really play board games or not." Right? So, it was pretty fun.
That's great. Yeah, this one's been out of print for a little while now, and definitely in demand. So we're really happy to be supporting this game. We've reprinted one of the expansions that was out of print, and there hasn't been new content for this game since its launch. And we've seen that there's a lot of demand for it, especially when announcing this. And that's why I'm really excited to announce that we made an expansion that will be out shortly called Love on Lockdown. This is a brand new love story where there's a threat that has a couple stuck inside, and we explore what does it mean to be in a relationship where you're stuck inside with the other person for an indefinite amount of time. This may feel relevant. You don't have to play it as if it's the threat of the things we've all gone through recently, but you can.
I was gonna say, where did you get an idea like this?
Yeah, like how did we come up with this?
Yeah, that's very unique. I told Ben earlier when we were looking at some of the images that the image on the front kind of reminds me a little bit of Jenny and Forrest Gump sitting on a bench. It was so iconic looking for that. But yeah, no, I mean this is something that probably speaks near and dear to a lot of people's hearts over the last year and a half, because I think all of us kind of got thrust into that. Oh my goodness, we're around each other 24/7, 365 now. What's going to happen, right? And that sounds easy, but it's not, right? So there's a lot of stuff that can come out of that for sure.
Totally. And not to spoil too much, but we try to keep a lot of it lighthearted too, and focus on things like, hey, we have to order takeout again, or taking up new awkward hobbies that you wouldn't have otherwise taken up. So we explore the gamut of concepts here when it comes to this. We're also introducing a new mechanic for those familiar with Fog of Love, where there's a branching storyline, so the replayability is a little higher, and the impact of your choices kind of choose your own adventure style, navigate you through this branch or that branch of the story. So we're excited to introduce some new mechanisms to the game on top of new content.
That's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Next up, I want to talk about this is our brand new release. By the time I think this video goes out, it should be at retail. This is Vivid Memories. This is our new spatial puzzle game, right in the same or similar vein of Sagrada. This is a game of collecting and connecting memories. You as a player have your own brain board that you're collecting fragments of memories, placing them in little hexes in order to forge connections, and you're rewarded for sort of realizing these moment tiles as you go. Really crunchy spatial puzzle. I like to say that once you've played Sagrada, this is your next step game where it's really approachable, tile drafting and puzzly, but there's a little more to think about and a little more by way of options and actions that you can take. Super pumped to have an all-star team on this one. Matthew Dunstan, Brett J. Gilbert, and Andrew Bosley on the art. All amazing to work with, and I'm really proud of what we've put together for this game.
Yeah, Dunstan and Gilbert have done a lot. They're kind of like the tag team, so to speak, of designer wrestling champions, if you will. But and Bosley, remind me if I say this wrong, he was the one that did Everdell, right?
Yeah, Everdell, Tapestry.
That art style is so distinct.
Yeah, it's striking for sure. And I love how he captured this concept that we're going.
Busy he is too, that you got him for this.
What's that?
I said that's pretty amazing how busy he is that you got him for this, which is pretty awesome. So
yeah, I made sure to reserve his time well in advance to give us plenty of time to work on this one. So. And
we just had a chance. We got to play our first game of this, and it pardon the pun, it blew our minds. it was you know, I knew I was excited for the game. I knew I loved the whole idea of like tile laying with these like backlight tiles, I guess you could call them, the little plastic tiles and everything like that. The colorful, crunchy, tactile version of these tiles like is really just that triggers a lot of things from the dopamine rush. But when we sat down and played it, it was definitely something where you play 3 rounds, and about halfway through that second round, everything clicked for my wife, my partner. Like everything clicked. And I have no shame in saying this. She beats me most of the time, but I sent a shot to Ben and Emily of the final screen of the score that we recorded. It was like 139-79. She absolutely waxed me. And I can tell you right now, I never had so much fun losing because I knew everything I did wrong. Like when I was playing the game, I was like, okay, oh, and then I saw her do something. I'm like, damn, that's what I should have done. Okay, I need to do this next time. And it's like, it was one of those things where even though I lost, I had a tremendous amount of fun learning how to know to get better for the next time I played it. And it was like immediately like, okay, dump these tiles out. We're going to do this again. It was like immediately play again. So yeah, we had a lot of fun with this game. And it was something that, like you said, it's crunchy, but I don't feel that it's like crunchy or complex in a difficult way. It's crunchy or complex in a very rewarding way, because if you can plan those like 2, 3, 4 moves ahead, you can really be rewarded for a lot of points with what you want to do with it, which was really cool to see.
Yeah, I love it. We're having a lot of fun with this one. All our Kickstarter backers, almost all our Kickstarter backer deliveries have gone through, so we're ready for retail release, and the feedback so far has been really fantastic. So excited to see how this one does for everyone. Next up, I want to talk about a game we'll be releasing in April. This one's called Decorum. This is a game of passive-aggressive cohabitation. This is a collaborative game where players are cohabitants in a house, and they are each taking turns decorating that house, adding lamps, removing wall hangings, and so on, in order to make the house look exactly how they want. Each player has a secret set of conditions of how they want the house to be decorated. Things like there are no lamps in the kitchen, or the left side of the house must be painted green, and so on. And the twist is, when you make a change to the house, the other player can't tell you exactly what they do or don't like about that change. They can only respond by saying, I love it, I hate it, or I'm neutral to it, hence the passive-aggressive part. And it is fully cooperative, so even though it doesn't feel like it all along, as you're making these changes, you're trying to find a way to arrange the house where everybody is satisfied. There are 30 scenarios that you play through, and each one is a carefully crafted puzzle where there are solutions, one or more solutions. So again, like, it feels like, we're kind of trying to get through this and conflicting, but knowing that there's always a solution, and that you can, it's about the compromise, and it's about sort of helping each other without perfect information, makes this just such an amazing experience.
My wife has a friend that she, and I won't say who it is so that I don't get anybody in trouble, but she always says she's the kind of person that would walk into your house and say, you have a wonderful house. I wouldn't have painted it this color, but you have a wonderful house. That's like the first thing that like triggers to me is this game is it's like you paint the left side of the house green. You're like, yeah, no, not cool.
That's a choice. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That is a color. Right. So no, that sounds really cool. One of the things we didn't talk about yet, and this will probably continue as we kind of go through and talk about the different games. Your price points are awesome. and I don't just mean that in terms of like they're good. I mean it as in the value you get for the SRP of the game is really good. Isn't it like Sagrada's like 90 dice or 60 dice or something like that?
90 dice.
Yeah, 90 dice. Yeah, it's amazing, right? But you get such key components are part of your games that are that tactile, feel like this is my thing and I'm diving into this head first kind of thing, those tiles and vivid and stuff like that. So it's just really good to see, you guys keeping the SRPs at a value that is both good from a retail perspective, but also good from a consumer perspective. So
yeah, thanks for noticing that. We really try to create games with a lot of value, wanting our games to be played for forever by folks that collect them. That's really been our strategy, is to just work with the highest quality components that we can, work with illustrators who create a beautiful table presence so that it's a game you're proud to have on the table and excited to look at to stare at for an hour while you're playing.
Yeah, like again, just this box cover, right? That negative space with the heart in there and everything from the buildings is just very eye-catching and very different, right? And that's the kind of thing that will pop off the shelves at people.
Love it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really pumped for this game. I did kind of talk about it from the 2-player experience, but it does play up to 4 as
Mhm.
well. A little bit of a difference there, but there's specific scenarios for how that plays.
I was just going to ask, are there specific scenarios for 2 or 4 or 3 players or anything like that? So perfect.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Each of the scenarios is like a handcrafted puzzle made by the game designers. So
Nice.
they progress in the 2-player experience, so they get harder as you get better at the game, and there's a little bit of an emergent storyline that comes out too, and a lot of that sort of like you're mentioning, like, oh, I see you wanted to paint the left side of the house green. That sort of commentary is definitely a fun part of the game if you
Nice.
choose to kind of have that quasi role-playing aspect be a part of it too.
I can imagine this could be really fun with playing with someone who is naturally passive aggressive, but then also playing with someone who hates being passive aggressive, like
Yeah,
someone who's like super direct, and it's like they have to like be very, out of their comfort zone kind of thing. So
the design team and myself, we're all from Minnesota, so this is like just right in our wheelhouse of the
nice.
Midwest passive aggression.
That's awesome.
A lot of fun. Next, we have the third of the series of Great Facades expansions, Sagrada Glory. This has been a long time coming to complete this trilogy. It will be out probably Q2 of this year if shipping is in our favor, which it seems to never be these days.
But again, nothing's wrong with shipping, right? Everything's
No,
fine.
everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine here. Thank you. How are you?
So each of the 3 Great Facades expansions that we've released so far, the previous 2, Passion and Life, have introduced new dice and new mechanisms and kind of had a little cohesive sub-theme to them. For Glory, we're introducing new dice, and the core concept of what's going on here is this is all about rivalry and competition, which has really been something that direct competition has not been in Sagrada at all so far in any of the expansion content. So here we're exploring a lot of those areas where we have new objectives that reward players for doing them first or doing them best by the end, and so on. And then the new dice have different constraints on how they're placed on your board. So you can kind of either try to take them and work around the difficulty that's introduced, or you can leave them for other players to have to deal with. So even in the draft, we have a little more of this like tension that we've introduced. So really excited for what this adds to the game. And we've had a lot of requests for this kind of like direct competition. So excited to bring that.
And I did check with Ben before. This isn't a case of like you're smashing someone else's stained glass window. So you're not like destroying anything that they do. So.
Yes. It's still like you have your own creative control over how your window is, the like puzzly feel of generating your window. It's definitely not disruptive in that you're not wrecking anybody else's plan in that respect. But
yeah, we're not going to war or anything.
Right. So yeah, great point. And thanks for bringing that back up.
No, it looks great. Looks beautiful. Again, gorgeous box, right? Just easily eye-catching, very unique, something, and stands out from the other Sagrada lines, which you can tell it's a different thing than Passion and a different thing than Life just by the coloring and the design of it, which is awesome.
Yeah, try to make them feel like cohesive, like part of a series, but all have their own unique feel.
Definitely, very cool. Fingers crossed on the Q2 thing.
Yes, we're hoping. That's all I have for the presentation. So thanks for listening through all of the new stuff we have. I'm really pumped for our lineup. I think we have a busy year ahead, and I'm super proud of all the stuff that the team has been helping put together here. So thank you
guys
for
are doing
listening.
phenomenal. And we have in the past we've had Floodgate in our catalog. Then due to different partnerships, we had to not have them in our catalog, and now we do again. So much longer story for a taller beer, as I say. But we're just very, very happy to have Floodgate back. A lot of really good opportunities, right? And the thing that I've always personally liked, like even going all the way back to the first time traveling game, like everything that your games do, like they trigger so many positive things from a gaming experience. They trigger little downtime, right? Like everyone's engaged, people know what's going on. Like just playing Vivid the other night, while you're not necessarily doing something on someone else's turn, the order of fragments that they pick and what they take away from the memory cards determines what you're going to do. And even in a two-player game, a lot can happen in that moment where you're like, okay, I really need to figure out, what am I going to do if my opponent does this, or what am I going to do if this person and that person does that and that. There's a lot of things to pay attention to, but there are also games that invoke that kind of story element or that discussion element, like we talked about, right? One of my favorite parts about playing sagrada, like we were just talking about with decorum, where it's like, oh, that green is a color, right? Somebody playing sagrada like puts a die in their window and you're like, okay. And they're like, wait, what's wrong with that? And you're like, no, it's your window, you do what you want to do. And they're like, no, did I do something wrong? And it's like, you immediately start to have these like really fun banter moments, right? And to me, that's the best part about gaming, right? It's bringing people together around a table, sharing in an experience. Yes, some of it may be competitive. Yes, some of it may be cooperative, but you're sharing in that time and that moment with each other. And having a game that can help invoke those kind of moments is really, really exciting and really, really fun. So those are all really good things. So
Thank you.
from a retail perspective, that translates into selling to the consumer, right? If I'm a retailer or I'm one of the sales staff of the retailer, knowing that I can tell people things, just like that simple line, like you said earlier about like Sagrada is aligned to Sudoku, like that kind of stuff is really easy to help people understand, okay, what kind of games do you like? What kind of games does your game group like? And then what can I recommend for you out of our lineup, right? Plus, the shelf presence is amazing. They look really good. The display of a lot of these games are really, really good. I've talked about a couple of times before on this webinar. We've seen a lot of retailers shift away from demo copies in store, and just because there's not a lot of people, hanging out in the stores anymore, just because of COVID and everything like that. We've seen a lot of people shift to display copies. And I know one retailer that has a bunch of these like little tiny triangular plate stands, and they're only like an inch high. Like normally you think of a plate stand being like 5 or 6 inches high to hold a plate. He bought all these little ones because when you flip them out, it allows you to put a card into them facing outwards instead of, just flat on a glass shelf or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I actually saw in his store, he had Sagrada with, he had it at the perfect angle. He had the window, the cardboard piece for the window, and like 4 dice were in there. And I'm like, did you glue those in there? And he's like, no, it's just like literally like it's the right angle. And if you
just
touch
the right angle,
I'll kill you. And I was like, yeah, it was so
don't
funny.
bump it.
But yeah, but it is, I mean, these are games that are very colorful when they're on the display. So one thing that I know a lot of our retailers ask, and just to kind of make sure everyone's clear and on the same page on this, we do have some international retailers. We have retailers South America, Central America, Thailand, Malaysia, places like that. Right now, Floodgate is just US only. So if you do have a need to get Floodgate international, you can't get that directly from us at GTS. But you can contact Ben, and I'm sure we can get you in touch with people because his stuff is distributed around the world. So no matter where you are, I'm sure we can help get you taken care of. So I always like to bring that up because even though it's a small percentage of retailers that we have that are international, it's always good for them to know exactly where they can and can't get stuff from, which is important. So, and then in terms of if I am a retailer and I want to either ask you more questions directly, or if I want to maybe get a game to have on display in my store or on demo in my store, what's the best way to do that? Is it just easiest to email you, ask questions, or what's the best way to go about that?
Yeah, you can email us, find us on all the socials. We've got a pretty active Discord, especially with retailers. Some of you might be on that. I love chatting with you guys, so jump on there and happy to answer any questions.
Nice.
If email's your thing, it's best to email Rich, who handles sales for us, and that's rich@floodgategames.com. And he'll take it from there. We'd gladly get you demo copies or display copies, as we might be calling them now.
Yeah, it's interesting to see in the different areas of the US just kind of like who is focused on in-store demoing and who's focused on just displays and things like that. And it definitely does tend to be a little more regional from what we see, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. I just noticed while we're sitting here talking, you actually have the Holy Tower right behind you.
I do.
Yeah, that's it right there. It looks
just hangs out. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Oh,
so,
if you'll suffer another moment, one thing I wanted to mention.
Suffer, yes. Please continue.
One thing I wanted to mention is we have sort of a new strategy I'm trying with all of our new releases where, because we do sell directly to consumers as Floodgate through crowdfunding and sometimes pre-orders and such, We're limiting all of our direct sales in those respects to the deluxe edition only of our games, and then leaving the retail editions only available through retailers, our retail partners through you guys. So
That's cool.
obviously, if someone wants to seek out the deluxey stuff, they're going to. They can come to us for that, which is usually not a ton, but I felt like this kind of created a nice breathing room for retailers to be the ones who. So we're not competing with you guys on a sort of retail front.
No, that's great. I know of 2 other publishers that are about to go a similar strategy this year. They haven't announced it yet, so I can't say who they are, but I know that that's something that's been on the minds of a lot of people. I know, especially when you get into a lot of like really deluxeified things on the Kickstarter side, it almost kind of prices you out of a retail position where it's like, this is maybe a $50 game, but if it's $80 price point in retail, how many people are really going to, to your point, we want people to play the games forever. What's the longevity of something that the consumer at a retail perspective may look at? This isn't really lined up to where I want to be. So no, I think that's really smart. So it's amazing to me that we are now almost, I think almost a decade past backing my first project on Kickstarter. And yet I still meet people who don't know who it is. So there's always that debate of, is Kickstarter in competition? Is Kickstarter not in competition? That's something we could have an entire week's worth of webinars on and things like that. But I can definitely say from my personal experience, the amount of people that know what Kickstarter is much less than what the market is out there. There's a lot more people that don't know. So it's pretty amazing. So
yeah.
Awesome. Well, Ben, thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to our retailers. Obviously this is not a one and done thing, right? As you guys have more new releases coming up and more exciting stuff to talk about, happy to have you back. If Emily happens to poke her nose in, we're more than happy to have her too. So she's always welcome. Even Ari, I don't know. I mean, she's only 2. You never know, right? She could become your new director of sales. You never know, right?
She loves playing with little pieces and stuff over here. So.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, God, man, I can't. I never even thought about that. If I was a youngster, a toddler, and my dad was like a game publisher, or my mom was a game publisher, how awesome the house would be, right? I'm an adult playing in this space. If I was a kid playing in this space, it would be a whole different like ball game. So it was pretty awesome. But no, really do appreciate the time. Retailers, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Again, as a reminder, feel free, like and subscribe to the channel. You can like the video. You can share it with other retailers if you want to share with them some awesome things that you heard here. If you turn on notifications, you'll get notified whenever we put a new webinar up. As a reminder, all of these are going to be pre-recorded moving forward. That was just at the request of the bulk of the retailers that we work with. Makes it a little easier and a little more flexible for everybody, both on our side recording it, but also on your side being able to review it kind of whenever you want to. So if you got questions, leave them below in the YouTube channel. We'll get back to you, let you know any kind of answers. And again, as a reminder, everything you saw here, all of it's available for pre-order in the system right now. So you can go online to gtsdistribution.com, or you can check things out with your sales rep and contact them, and they'll be able to help you out as well. So until we see you next time, though, thanks so much. Have a great week in your stores. Take care.